Kia ora, g'day, welcome back here with what will hopefully be the final part 3 of my reaction to the 60 minutes, what's it got here? 60 minutes shocking allegations about elite Australian soldiers during the Afghanistan war. So let's jump back in.
Those who witnessed or know of atrocities are desperately searching for their own peace, and true accountability might just...
Bloody rubbish, they're searching for their own peace. If they were searching for their own peace, in terms of their accountability, their responsibility, taking ownership for their part in these alleged war crimes, then they wouldn't be hiding behind the cameras, especially if they're not serving anymore. Understand if they are still serving, but also they wouldn't be seeking immunity.
Must help them find it.
Yeah, it's
like this guy here. So Dusty, the medic, let's hear what he has to say in this one. I've heard him and reacted to him in other videos.
indelible. It's with me. My job in the army is I'm an army medic, and it goes completely against everything that I believe in.
And so for this guy, if I remember rightly, Dusty didn't witness any murders. He has spoken about in other videos that he was working on somebody, an injured Afghan, I think, from memory. And then that person was taken away. I think he says it was RS. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. He might have said somebody else. And then he never saw that person again. Or the next time he spoke with one of the operators, he said, oh, where's the guy? Or asked a question along those lines, where's the guy that he was working on effectively? And I think he said, the guy replied to him saying he didn't make it. That's my recollection. Like, some of these reactions have been from a while ago, and they sort of merged. 60 minutes have really tried to really pull the piss out of these war crime allegations for as much as they can, trying to milk it for as much as they can, basically, to set the scene and this narrative that Ben Roberts-Smith is a war criminal. That's my take and perspective of it. And they've recycled a whole bunch of interviews and stuff, or they've done multiple interviews, basically getting the person to say the same thing over and over again. So we'll see if Dusty talks to that here in this, and in regards to what I've heard him say before, which I'm pretty sure was he didn't actually witness any murders or anything taking place. It's based on that situation that I just described earlier in my comments.
Dusty Miller is the SAS medic who saw too much. On deployment in Afghanistan 7 years ago, he was unwittingly involved in something horrible. So bad, it festered for years after his return. Until a few weeks ago, his home was the Veterans Psychiatry Unit at Austin Hospital in Melbourne.
Did you see unlawful conduct by fellow Australians?
I did, yes.
Did you see prisoners mistreated?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so he saw unlawful conduct. So I'd be interested to hear what it is or what it was, because he didn't talk about this part in the other video. So me talking about recycling may be off.
What did you see?
Dusty's still serving in the army, which means he can't answer my question. But
What a crock of bloody bull tucks. Dusty's still serving in the army, so he cannot answer my question. Bro, the fella's got his blinking mug on the camera, and he's been on your show multiple times. I don't know when this particular documentary was done, this mockumentary was done, but one of the other reactions that I did that has been blocked by YouTube, or I guess 60 Minutes, probably like this one will be, because part 1 of my reaction to this video as a whole has already been blocked. Part 2 is still showing at the moment, but that'll probably get blocked. And then once I upload this may show for a little while, and then this will probably be blocked as well. So outside my control, I do the reactions, I get the requests. But the other reaction that I've done to this guy talking, and again, I acknowledge and credit him for showing his face, unlike these other supposed badged operator, retarded, blinking cowards who have sought immunity and have managed to get it, apparently. Real guys of integrity and accountability and ownership, apparently. Blinking rubbish. This guy, you've cut it off at the most critical part in terms of this particular documentary. But anyway, if I go back to the other one that I've reacted to, Dusty doesn't talk about physically witnessing unlawful behavior in the form of war crimes, murder. He talks about, and people can go find it on YouTube, he talks about working on a person who gets taken away, Then he asked one of the operators, or the operator that took him away, what happened to, or where's the guy? I assume because he probably wanted to carry on patching him up if this recollection and experience of Dusty's is accurate. And then he says that he was told he didn't make it. But he's sitting here saying that he did witness and see these things. So that seems a bit contradictory to me as well, without hearing what's been said here. But we'll come back to this. I'll let this video play out. But I've got a lot to say because this seems and sounds contradictory to what he's spoken about in other interviews with this twat, Dick McKenzie.
Awful incident that's affected him so much has been described to me by other soldiers. It was mid-2012 and Dusty was treating a wounded detainee.
He's coming with me.
Our sources tell us this wounded man was taken away from Dusty by another SAS soldier, who we're not naming for legal reasons. It's alleged this wounded man was then executed.
Yeah, there's a huge amount of guilt.
So why can't Dusty... That just baffles me. Why can't Dusty spit out those words? You have to... Dick McKenzie has to tell the story through the words of somebody else that was there? That just doesn't make sense. Come on, Dusty. You've got your mug on camera. You're doing all of this stuff. Like, tell it first person, not have this twat and the ABC blinking seemingly make up some sort of, or fabricate some sort of story which has apparently come from some other operator. You're already on the camera, bros. Like, tell your side of what you saw based on the facts of what you saw and what you witnessed in terms of illegal activity.
I feel morally, I feel as a medic, I could intervene, and I maybe more than I did, and that will stay with me. But again, I just can't expand any further than that.
What Dusty
can't expand any further than that. Well, the other guy apparently just expanded for you, bruz. And it sounds like you didn't witness anything. It sounds like my recollection of the other reaction videos that I've done to this in relation to Dusty, it seems like my recollection of my other reactions may be pretty accurate in terms of what I recall, however long ago that was. I think that those reactions might have even been last year, 2025 sometime. But you can't elaborate any more than that, or you can't go into any more detail. It just seems weird to me. Did you witness somebody getting executed who was unarmed, this patient that you were working on, or not? So it seems like a simple yes or no question, and you don't have to then elaborate. Like, that's it. That's all you need to say. If Twat McKenzie was to ask you that question, did you specifically witness an Afghan person who you were working on get taken away? Did you witness him being executed? Yes or no?
he saw is now also the subject of a war crimes investigation. But it's the personal burden which hurts this man of conscience and broken soldier the most.
Tell me about the way that guilt eats away at you.
Oh, it's
Well, you should be able to tell a story around that, Dick McKenzie, with the amount of corruption and bloody rubbish you've done. But clearly, I would say in your case, guilt doesn't eat away at you as long as you get the accolades and the awards for your supposed professionalism and journalism. It seems like there are blinking twats like you around that just don't have this guilt and conscious gene.
something that I think about often. It's one of the obtrusive thoughts that I get. It just feels like I lacked intestinal fortitude at the time, that I should have stepped in, said something, but I didn't.
This part, from what Dusty has spoken about, lacking intestinal fortitude to step up, speak up, but he didn't, and showing his face, those apparent operators, those apparent four blinking Weasley rejects, cowards that have got and weaseled their way to get immunity based on the allegations of war crimes that they're wanting to put solely on one of the guys that is probably a large part of the reason why they even made it home in the first place, being Ben Robert Smith. Take a look, mate. At least this medic appears to be owning, for the most part, his SHIT here in this interview. Lacked intestinal fortitude, essentially was weak as piss at that time. Credit to credit to Dusty for going over and serving there in Afghanistan. The fact that he's a medic, that wouldn't have saved him in the eyes of the Taliban or Al-Qaeda. Like, too bad, so sad, bruz. Like, you're being executed. But he was there, and he served, and he's here on camera. Like, and apparently he's still serving at the time of this recording for this Lincoln 60 Minutes piece. Whereas these other supposed operators who've gone through selection and cycle and been these hearty men can't bring themselves to front the truck and camera, and or can't even bring themselves to face the consequences if the allegations in which they are making and stating against RS are true for their part in those things, whether they chose to act and carry out the actions, and or whether they chose to stand by and do nothing because they lacked, like Dusty said, the intestinal fortitude to say anything and do anything. Weak as piss, those lads.
And I know there's others out there that feel the same way that I do. You can't keep this stuff to yourself. I thought it was the noble thing to do. It was the, let's keep it in-house thing to do, but it's not. There needs to be accountability, and the truth needs to be told.
And so that's great that he's shared that. Again, that internal moral compass and the looks wrong, sounds wrong, feels wrong, got to do something about it. Easier said than done. I 100% acknowledge that. I wasn't there in his situation or the other guys that have brought up these allegations years after the fact. But if something looks wrong, sounds wrong, feels wrong in the moment, it's likely going to continue to look, sound, and feel wrong with you for the rest of the deployment, with you for when you get home, with you. It's going to carry on. My take. I've had things that have, not in the military setting, but I've had things that have looked wrong, sounded wrong, felt wrong. And when they stay with you, like that's a sign that you need to do something about it, or capture that, or like you say, talk about it if that's what he needed to do. The time and opportunity to talk about it preferably would have been prior to anything happening. Then at the very least at the after action review or the patrol debrief, patrol report, and then documenting that. Like that, there's been plenty of opportunity to capture, document, and pull all that stuff together and report it and escalate it through the chain of command or hierarchy if these things did indeed happen. That's just my take. Excuse me. Waiting for years and years after the fact is just mind-boggling to me in terms of how and why could somebody, and Dusty appears to be somebody that, at least has the integrity and the courage to at least show his mask on the camera here. Unlike Lincoln, these apparent warrior SASR operators.
Coming up, if an individual has done nothing wrong.
And here's one of them now. Here's one of the faceless coward twats now.
What has he got to be afraid of?
D-Day for Australia.
Well, likewise for you, mate. If you've done nothing wrong, what are you afraid of showing your face for, you bloody twat?
Australia's Special Forces.
Ultimately, we want the truth to come out and the history books corrected.
Well, clearly you don't want the truth to come out and the history books to be corrected, because if you did, you Weasley little coward, you four rodents that have sought and gained immunity in order to spew whatever it is that you want against Ben Robert Smith, you don't want the truth to come out. You don't want accountability. You don't want this alleged justice. You blinking twats.
The long road to redemption.
There's two forms of courage in war, moral courage and physical courage. I think moral...
Look at this bloody twat. The apparent poster boy of moral courage and physical courage, not bloody Weasley little rodent who's under a defamation case for his deception, his conniving little traitorous maggot ways. This bloody twat, man, is Australia, Liberals. If you fellas haven't sussed this blinking treacherous little turd out, you're in for a rough ride. And Australia, if you vote him in, if he somehow weasels his way into power in terms of being a Prime Minister of Australia, Australia's trucked. You're already on the brink of being trucked right now with the Albanese government, and the Labour party that's in there. If this twat gets in there, the apparent moral courage and physical courage, bloody save it.
Moral courage is greater.
And why bravery...
Moral courage is greater, but this twat can't recall deceptively handing on a recording that he received and made a promise that he wouldn't send it any further in this defamation case that's been brought against him. Interesting. Wankstain.
It's bastardry.
That's the bottom line. We want to save lives, and I believe that we can do that.
That's next.
You believe that you can do that? Well, mate, if you have a look at your photos, yep, granted, you're a medic. You're a medic who's tooled up with a weapon, with live rounds, live ammunition in the chamber. You're deploying and going into areas where a Badlands, that's where the regiment's going. And if you're a medic within the team, within a regiment team, well, then you're going into bad places where it's highly likely, and as history has shown, that when the lads were deployed there in Afghanistan during that global war on terror, they were basically getting into contacts every time they went out. So unless you are just carrying that weapon for decoration, the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda are not going to give a rat's ass if you are a medic or if you're an interpreter. You are tooled up with a weapon, with rounds in the chamber, I would imagine, and you're part of a team that is going there to kill and or to capture people. So if you just want to save lives, bros, maybe work in a hospital, maybe work at a GP, maybe work as a paramedic in Australia, rather than going into the military, being posted to a combat unit like the regiment, and then going out on the small teams tasks. As a medic, credit to you, it's great. Like, the boys would have felt glad that they've got an actual skilled, qualified medic, which I assume Dusty is. But be under no illusion, bros. You're there expected to, if you fellas come into contact, the reason that you've got a weapon is that you are expected to engage back at those enemy if they are shooting at you and all the boys that you are serving with. And if you're not going to do that, well, then you're a track and waste of space. Like, there's no point for you to be on the team if you're not going to support the team when the enemy are shooting at you and all your mates, and you can see a clear line of sight towards an enemy that is engaging your mates. And if you don't do anything about it, it's pointless you being there, medic or not. That's my take.
Up 60 minutes.
At AFP headquarters in Canberra, Australia's most sensitive murder investigation continues. It's into allegations Afghan man Ali Jan was handcuffed, kicked off a cliff and shot dead.
Kicked off a cliff. That's what they're describing as the cliff, I presume, why they keep showing it. A man walking down an alleged cliff. Don't get me wrong, that's a reasonably steep slope. You know, he's not running down it, but he's walking down it. I don't know what cliffs other people or the media or this twat McKenzie or other people within Australia who believe that RS is guilty, and all those who don't. But I've never seen a cliff, never, ever, anywhere, where somebody can just walk down like what this guy's doing. I could be wrong. If other people know of cliffs and if they go regularly walking down the sides of cliffs, send me through the video footage to have a look. I'd be interested to watch it. But if it's something like this, then don't waste your time, because to me, that's not a cliff.
A second war crimes investigation is being run for the Defence Inspector
Yeah, this bloody twat.
General by Major General Paul Brereton, a judge in the New South
Major retard Paul Brereton.
Wales Supreme Court of Appeal. Many SAS soldiers have given sworn statements to the AFP. And
the way that this guy's talking about it is as if the members in the regiment who had to give testimony that they did so willingly, or that they weren't interrogated, yelled at, treated like pieces of rubbish by the Office of the Special Investigator who was carrying out these supposed interviews. This twat, Dick McKenzie, mainstream media is just rubbish. I don't know why people spend so much time watching, listening, consuming, and paying the bills for these blinking ball bags, but you do. And so be it. But all you need to do is have a listen to the people that have been through that process. Have a watch and a listen to Bravery and Betrayal when Tony's talking about his experience in one of the interviews. Have a listen to Scott Jones on the Two Worlds Collide podcast hosted by Sam Bamford when he talks about how guys are treated, having their homes raided. And the tactics used to try to get inside the heads and to literally break down the soldiers, cause them to have mental breakdowns, and probably a lot more after that, through the types of methods that they were using. Those people that were involved in those types of interviews should be blanking ashamed of themselves, should be disgusted, but they probably won't be. They won't be, because I don't know why. They probably think, oh, this is a good thing that we're doing. We haven't been over there. We have no idea what combat is like. We've never been shot at. These guys were literally fighting for their lives, sent on kill capture missions. They didn't come up with the information intelligence target packs. It was provided to them. They got the orders. They asked questions. They then went and carried it out. But we're going to treat them like they're all murderers. And then we're going to share with the media that we received sworn testimony or statements from these people, like we did it in a really, like in a normal ethical way. Like Heston Russell has said, pedophiles and, dare I say, murderers within Australia get treated better than the soldiers that have gone away and fought for Australia, fought for their mates, ultimately, the people next to them, fought probably then for their families, I can't speak for all of them, and then for their country and the freedoms that they enjoy, that they love, the privilege that they feel that it is to grow up and live and raise a family within Australia itself, only to be torn down by, I was about to go on a swearing spree just then, by retards like this twat, and retards in the Office of the Special Investigator, and the retarded general public who think that mainstream media is being transparent and upfront with you. Not going to be able to convince those types of retards. They're going to continue soaking up the mainstream media and continue gobbling away on this guy's ball sack and giving him more awards.
More than 200 Special Forces personnel have testified on oath before Justice Brereton. They include men who are trained to endure torture, to withstand interrogation. But if they lie before Justice Brereton, they can be charged. The men we've met as part of our investigation say
Justice Brereton, the major retard, and this twat who's trying to frame Justice Brereton and the Office of the Special Investigator and the Australian Federal Police in terms of the processes that they are applying and going through and using against the soldiers, these 200 plus soldiers who have apparently willingly gone, lined up outside the door, taken a number and waited to go in there, like they haven't been forced to go in there and that they haven't been treated as miserably as the way as has been described. It makes me, and I haven't even gone through it, and make what those soldiers have gone through. It makes me really disgusted with regards to the Australian government allowing their soldiers to be treated that way. Their best soldiers to be treated that way, because let's face it, there's levels to it, like in everything. Levels to professional sports, levels to soldiering, levels to whatever it is that you want to associate with it. But there are levels to soldiering. And when you've got more than 200 of your best soldiers, your best combat fighting soldiers, your best soldiers who will go away and fight the fight and are prepared to risk it all, being treated like scum, basically, being treated like they are war criminals and murderers, that government, the people there within that country, twats like this who enjoy the freedoms that they have, don't deserve to have those types of people there going away and fighting for them. Will that change? Will that stop people that are wired that way to go away and fight? Probably not. You're still going to get, Blinken, vast majority, extremely good, professional men of integrity, moral courage, warriors that will go and serve, put up their hand and say, yep, I'm coming, this is where I want to be, I'll go and serve and I'll go and do it. Knowing full well, likely, that this potentially could happen to them in the next war. They could be treated like these people, and then maybe then it might be like, oh, crap, I'd heard about this stuff happening, I never for a minute thought that it would happen to me.
the truth must be told. Still, some witnesses have been warned.
Sorry for pausing this so much, but this twat is just banging on, the truth must be told. That's a great point, twat Mackenzie. How about the Heston Russell stuff? Like, all of this stuff just seems to be swept under the carpet. How about the 700,000 hush money? Like, just the apparent breach of ethics, which got all just conveniently swept under the carpet. The apparent, what's the rationale for wanting to try to keep the hush money quiet for the next 50 or 100 years. Like, you are right. Truth should come out, but it should come out from all sides. Mainstream media, this twat, this ball bag, they have the resources, the time, the staff, and the people that are able to coordinate and put all this stuff together to share and pump out the narrative that they want people to digest, that they want people to ultimately believe, and it's having a massive impact on those retards that do consume this stuff and that do believe it.
Warned by anonymous third parties to stay silent.
What are you scared of? If we've done nothing wrong, if an individual has done nothing wrong, what has he got to be afraid of?
Good question, mate. Good question, Lincoln Wankstein, hiding in the shadows here with a face mask on and a cap. Great questions. Are you asking yourself that question? Do you look in the mirror and take any time out to go, what have I got to be afraid of? If I've got nothing to hide, if I've done nothing wrong, what have I got to be? Well, here you are sitting in the bloody shadows, you bloody reject, hiding your blinking mask because, well, you must have something to hide then. Is that right?
Ultimately, we want the truth to come out. What happened in Afghanistan?
If you want the truth to come out, why are you hiding your face? Why are you hiding your face? You bloody ball bag.
And the history books corrected. The truth is going to help us carry on with our lives.
The truth's the cleanser.
The truth is going to help you carry on with your lives. Did truck all over 10 years ago, if you're one of the 3 out of the 5 alleged war crimes of murder, which are all being lumped onto RS, if you're one of the 3 that apparently participated and conducted the execution under the instruction of Ben Robert Smith because you were too piss weak to do anything about it, if the allegations are true, you want RS, what I'm hearing is you want RS to go to jail so you can go on with your life and then breathe a sigh of relief. Are you trucking kidding me, mate? No wonder you bloody retards have got your faces covered and hidden, because this rubbish of what you're putting out on the interwebs will be there for as long as YouTube and the internet is still running and operating. And so therefore, I wouldn't want to show my face either if I was a blinking reject, coward, blinking wankstain like yourself, like yourselves, here, sitting in this interview with this blinking ballbag, Dick McKenzie. What a couple of trucking useless pricks. Dusty, the medic, has more courage and integrity than you two twats combined.
It is the cleanser.
Afghan veteran Andrew Hastie says the inquiry is a way of holding people to account, including top
Wankstain wasty
military commanders and the politicians who sent our soldiers to war.
Everyone wanted to be there for medal ceremonies and people turned up for the funerals, but your responsibility doesn't end there. You have to be engaged intellectually in the war, what's happening, are the policy settings work. This is the thing, right? The nature of war is inherently chaotic, and so you need to be constantly revisiting your policy, adapting your policy.
And in line with that, he's saying some things that I actually agree with, but also you're a troop commander, mate. For some reason, you failed cycle, failed the CQB validation shooting, and you still got handed a troop. You didn't get the arse like other people. You're a troop commander, a captain in charge of operators from the rank of trooper, lance corporal, corporal, sergeant, under your command, within your troop, within that squadron. What you're talking about in terms of leadership, needing to be aware, assessing, policy, etc., well, part of that is your responsibility as the troop commander, to sit in that strategic level space to be able to escalate that information. And that includes if there's any concerns. That includes like concerns from an operational, tactical, strategic perspective, concerns that may impact operators' ability to carry out and conduct their work out on the job, and or concerns if there are blinking trucking alleged war crimes, mate, happening. Your job, as part of your job, is to escalate all that information and more up. Obviously, the details of various patrols that you might go out on as well, and tasks, and getting all that intel and information, structuring that, presenting that, reporting that back up the chain. There's a whole bunch of stuff which you are responsible for, Wankstein Wasty. And so what you're talking about, I agree with large parts of what you've just said here. What did you do is my question. When you're getting these When you're having these little private Blue Oyster conversations with your boyfriends, the rejects from 2 Squadron that got the arse to 4 Squadron, what did you do with that information? How did you escalate it? How did you report it? How did you document it and capture it? You're right, yeah, leadership, that higher ranks than you have got responsibility to do certain things. You've also got a level of responsibility. What did you do? Sounds like you did truck all, mate.
Changing, and I don't think we saw that.
Unfortunately, it's the few that spoil it for the majority. And in this instance, we've got 1 or 2 really bad eggs who have drawn the unit.
Well, which is it? 1 or 2? You're saying we've got 1 or 2 really bad eggs. What is it? Is it 1 or is it 2? Is it Oliver Schultz and Ben Roberts-Smith, a trooper and a corporal, that was somehow superseding the rank of a sergeant? A sergeant is apparently one of the witnesses against RS. So a trooper and a corporal got together and said, truck you, Sarge, we're going to go and do what we want. Truck you, troop commander. Truck you, troop sergeant. Squadron SSM. Squadron OC, major. Truck yous all. We are running the show. Trooper Oliver Schultz and Corporal Ben Roberts-Smith. Is it 1 or 2? So we've got 1 or 2. This blinking gutless ball bag is sitting here spouting off like he's blinking got all the answers. Just like me. But it pisses me off, these guys here, that do they look at this? I wonder if they look at, not my reaction. I hope they do see my reaction. I don't particularly care. I wonder if they look back at this documentary and look at it with pride and go, man, we did the right thing. Look at us. Look at how brave we look in the shadows, ironically, saying things like, if they've done nothing wrong, what have they got to be afraid of? As they sit there in the shadows with a cap on and a head sock over their face. Then do they look at Dusty and go, far out, that guy's brave, showing his face, coming out here, talking about, look at us. We look blinking piss weak. And if they're thinking that, it's because you do look piss weak in this documentary, based on the allegations that you are making.
And the army into disrepute.
We don't want to be an army that is as low or lowers ourselves down to the level of the enemy that we're fighting against.
That I agree with. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think, and I've shared that in other reactions, I believe Western countries and places, that have a rigorous process like the unit to select people to go into places like that is because there's a higher level and a higher expectation, not only internally of the individuals that go there, I believe anyway, by and large, but also by the public, their expectation of their soldiers, particularly their SF soldiers. And I think that's warranted. I think there's nothing wrong with having that expectation that you operate with a higher moral set, with greater restraint as and when those times may present themselves in the heat of battle and all that sort of stuff, or when the dust settles a bit more. Heat of battle is different. Like you're going to respond and react and, dare I say, neutralize and or kill the threat and the enemy. If that dust is settled, you've captured, you've detained, and you're going through that process, well, there's time and space and more opportunity to absorb more, I suppose, dare I say, information and things that are happening around and process and start looking ahead and planning ahead in conjunction with everything else that's happening, the SSE and everything else. So yeah, that's my take on there. So I do agree with what this guy has said just here about that part in terms of we're not looking to lower ourselves to the same level or standards just because they may torture, mutilate and video beheading Western people and or soldiers and doing things like that. Doesn't mean that that's what we want to do in return to those soldiers once they are captured or anything like that.
The Inspector General's investigation will look into these incidents, and if it's seen that individuals have a case to answer, they'll be made accountable. Then we'll find out who our heroes are. A hero is not someone who harms innocent individuals.
It's interesting. How do you know that these individuals are innocent in the first place? And again, it just keeps recycling the same questions. You did stuff all about it. Back in 2009, 10, 11, 12, over 4 years, you did nothing. Even years after that, you still did nothing. and for whatever reason you got your undies in a knot because you didn't get a VC or certain medal or recognition or whatever, whether it's for apparently for your kids to know or whatever, and not yourself, it's just a crock. What's this?
Army has charged Major Matthew Goldstein, awarded the Silver Star in Afghanistan, with premeditated murder. Australia is not alone in all this. While the suspect was in...
Well, there's been lots of stuff that's happened. Again, mainstream media, right? What's his name? Eddie Gallagher. Completely innocent of the stuff that he was accused of. There have been lots of lies about various stories and stuff. Is it Pat Tillman? Whole bunch of stuff that's gone on there in terms of, and I haven't looked into it. I've just been sent some requests to look into it. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. Blinken, the Rob O'Neill and the Marcus Luttrell and Blinken, Tim Kennedy, John Shrek McPhee. Who knows? I don't know how much of their stories and all that sort of stuff is true, not true, whatever. This stuff here, just because it's in mainstream media and they've got the picture of somebody like they have of RS saying that there's this investigation or accusing them of being war criminals, doesn't mean that it's true. But the retarded public, they'll take that, gobble it up in the media, the mainstream media, understand that and know that. And they'll keep running that stuff because it's tried, tested, and proven for them. It works. It gets people dialed into their show. And I presume it makes them very financially well off.
Crimes allegations against American Special Forces soldiers have sparked intense controversy.
How to be great fighters, and then when they fight, sometimes they get really treated.
The intervention of President Donald Trump prompted one war hero to speak out.
Elliot, tell me about working with Australian Special Forces. What were they like?
The Australians I worked with were very professional. Pleasure to work.
Elliot Ackerman is a highly decorated veteran, a former Marine Corps Special Ops officer who served 5 tours in the Middle East and earned a Silver Star for bravery.
Things happen in war, situations move very fast, move very fluid, and, accidents can happen. But there's also some cases that are pretty black and white. You don't take a prisoner behind a house and put a bullet in his head. You just don't. So we see going to war with laws. Then what rule is there? There's only the rule of the jungle. And it's...
I personally agree with what he's saying there. Like that detainee, and I've shared this in other reaction videos, if you go to all that effort, you've captured, detained, you're starting the question, you're doing the SS or the sensitive site exploitation, etc., you're doing all that stuff, you cycle that person up the chain, take them out, POW, get them into the pipeline so that they can then be handed on. When I say take them out, I mean take them out of that area, whether that's chopper, vehicle, whatever, get them into the pipeline so that whoever's taking care of and whoever would have been taking care of the interrogations, questioning, all that sort of stuff, back wherever that location was for the coalition. And that's what happens. So I acknowledge and agree with what this guy has just said here. There's clearly something, I don't know, I don't know. There's clearly something not right with that. And if somebody was to see something like that happening, something needs to happen. It looks wrong, it sounds wrong, it feels wrong. One of the other reactions that I did where the guy is talking about when he was asked for a suppressor, he said that seemed like an odd request, and then when he gave it and then he saw what he thought was going to happen, and then I think eventually in his testimony he did say that's what happened. It was one of those Guardian, the defamation case testimonies. He was, again, it just reiterates what I've always said, looks suspect in this case. Sounds weird or strange. So looks wrong, sounds wrong. And then you can see them walking off to go and do something. He's got all of these, or maybe feels wrong, sounds wrong, and then looks wrong as he's looking at them go away. If your spidey senses aren't tingling and the hairs on the back of your neck or on your forearms aren't standing up at that stage to go, hey, maybe just question, hit up the bro and say, what are you doing? What's happening? We've got these guys detained. We're going to extract out of here soon. Let's bundle them up in there. Let's hand them down the pipeline. In that context and in that setting. But anyway, let's carry on here and listening to this guy.
there's only the rule of the jungle. Like, guess what? You know, you're just like those, you know, ISIS savages who are, you know, putting deck cord around people's necks and blowing up their heads. And what makes us any different than them?
Why is it special forces around the world, Australia, the US, the UK, especially facing some of the most gruesome allegations of war crimes? What is it about this special elite, these special warriors that has taken them down there?
I think at this point, it might be the duration of our wars. You know, that the true professionals, the ones who've been doing it day in and day out for years and years and years and years, are special operators. And, you know, the longer you stay in these environments, what seems normal can start to bend and twist and become unrecognizable, and it's easy to become unmoored.
The Australian war crimes inquiries will provide a legal reckoning of the war, but for many veterans, it's moral reckoning they require. For Dusty Miller, an SAS medic, a form of moral injury was caused not just by what he...
There you go, mate. I mean, again, credit to Dusty for putting his face on camera and talking through. I'm still confused why you couldn't answer a simple question. Not that that question was put to you. Probably, again, part of the narrative and the reason they brought in other people to speak and share what they saw on your behalf. Just seems weird. You're there, you're on camera, you're talking about it anyway, unless there's some sort of NDA. A yes/no question, I don't know, would have hurt the case or whatever it is that you might be involved in, Dusty. But other video footage that I've seen, which seems and sounds contradictory to me from your perspective, is what you've said in those other videos, or that other video that I did a reaction to, whereby it sounds like you didn't witness or see anything firsthand. Those were your words. Yeah, as I described earlier, working on someone, they got taken away. You then asked later on what happened to the guy, and then you were told he didn't make it. So from that, you've drawn conclusions that, you know, if those words, if all of that stuff happened, you've drawn conclusions that something unlawful has taken place. So, and maybe to what you've been speaking about so far in this documentary, maybe you felt like, again, maybe you felt like, oh, this seems a bit off. They're taking this patient away that I'm working on, this innocent civilian. So it feels wrong. It looks, you know, just sort of doesn't look right. And it sounds like this possibly isn't going to go too well. I'm ad-libbing here, using some license to try to describe potentially what you may have been feeling. And maybe all of those things, because you've mentioned that you didn't have the intestinal fortitude at the time to speak up and say something, and perhaps you should have. So that's why I'm using some of that license to try to describe the looking, sounding, and feeling. Like typically for anyone, I know for me anyway, if those things are in play, and if they are all in play at the same time, typically that's your gut and instinct and your conscience for any one of us, myself included, telling us, I need to do something. Like something needs to happen here. I need to do something. I may not know exactly what it is, but I need to do something. And in those cases, it's probably something like speaking up, having some courage and going, I need to speak up and try to stop this. It might mean physically looking to intervene. You might be looking at an altercation of people for whatever reason you don't know. You've just come around a corner and you see this altercation that's taking place and you're thinking, what the hell's going on? Or a standoff with a couple of people with some weapons or whatever. Maybe in that case, you might not look to intervene, but you know, your senses would be telling you something needs to happen. Either intervene, do something, or run. That standard fight, flight, freeze. Those things will likely come into play. So looking at Dusty here, you are tooled up, bro. You are not going to be seen. You can have med. You could have had that in Arabic for all the Taliban and Al-Qaeda would have cared in terms of where he's got med, those three letters. It wouldn't matter to them. They see a soldier dressed in uniform with a weapon. You are an active combatant. If you were an enemy force with a weapon, it wouldn't matter if you've got the dog next to you or a goat or whatever, or a herd of goats. If you're carrying weapons and you've got a little chest rig with some magazines, you've got a radio on you, the fact that you've got donkeys next to you is not going to matter to any special operations forces in that country if they are in that area where they've been told to go to looking for hunting and or killing, instructed to kill and or capture people in that area. Know what I mean? So anyway.
He encountered, but more so by the fact he didn't act to prevent it.
That guilt that you hold for something that maybe you may have done or witnessed that you just don't let go of. It's something that your moral code or your ethics is completely fighting with, and that has a profound effect on your mental health.
How long have you felt guilty?
7 years, yeah, 100% each day.
So 7 years, I presume 7 years, that's including from when this situation or these situations happened for Dusty. So if that's in 2009 or 2010 or 2011 or 2012, I don't know when Dusty was there or from which point he's talking about, but 7 years from somewhere within that time period, if he's felt like that from the moment it happened, or let's say from a few hours or maybe even a day after from when it actually happened, leaving that for years makes it really hard to understand, for me anyway, how you then sit there and go, oh man, I've lived with this every day of my life since it happened. Well, I don't know if you have. I don't know if you felt that guilt or that shame or that whatever it is that you're feeling now, way back then when it happened. Because did you document it? Like there's a lot there. As a medic, I would presume that the medic has got a part of their patrol report that they need to do, just like the SIGs person, the comms guy, has got parts of the patrol report that they need to do and provide at the end of every task. Did that happen? That could potentially go a long way to being pretty damning for anybody that's been accused of war crimes.
Even today, Dusty still carries the crushing burden of not knowing if he could have saved a man's life by stopping an execution.
When did you realise what you had seen was impacting on you in a very...
Notice how he didn't say, when did you realise what you had seen was an execution? Because, like I've said, I'm pretty sure Dusty has said in other videos that he didn't witness an execution. I've already shared the recollection that I have of the other reaction that I did.
Very, very harmful way.
I was probably shortly after I got back in 2012. Yeah, it was almost immediate actually.
So 2012, he said, so that sounds contradictory too, just based on where I paused it. He said it's probably after he got back in 2012, and then it was almost immediate actually. So which is it? When you got back, several months after the deployment, or immediately?
Yeah, I knew there was an issue. And it really did culminate at the beginning of this year. It came to a sort of a crescendo. And
so I don't know what year this is, but if it's 7 years, 2012, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 2018, let's say.
Yeah, I pretty much had a full breakdown. It was a very, probably the toughest time of my life. When you approach him, mate, if you can kind of come up from the side rather than the front.
Yeah. Exposing the ugly underside of war is helping him to heal.
Talk to him, they like that as well. They're very intuitive, and so they'll pick up.
And now Dusty is saddling up with his mates to start an outdoor therapy program, mounted missions in country Victoria.
That's pretty cool. That's something that I'm not sure if Willie Apiata VC here in NZ is, I don't know if he's currently doing that with veterans, but I know that that's one of the projects that he at least was working on anyway, since I've been back in NZ. So I had a little bit of a chat with him. You know, I think it was around the time as well when I was actually wanting to do a podcast interview with him or interview him for the podcast back then. But he wasn't keen on being interviewed personally, and probably just didn't want to delve into a lot of stuff. He's, as far as I could tell and have seen, he's a very private man, which is awesome. That's cool. He makes appearances every now and then. Obviously, the military, rightly so, still look to acknowledge and recognise him as they have done over a number of years. And I'm glad that happens. It should continue to happen. I'm not sure, but like I was saying, I'm not sure if he's doing he's clearly a horse whisperer, old Willie Apiata VC, having experienced that and seen and spent a little bit of time with him at his place before he moved to, I think he's in Whakatane now, when he was in South Auckland, sort of Pukekohe towards the Bombay's way for a time anyway, before he moved. And yeah, I just think if he does something like what Dusty is doing here with the horses, that'll go down really well, I think, anyway.
Damaged vets.
If you've got anxiety, you get instant feedback from that animal, and it knows if you're anxious, it will not work with you. And so I think it gives you that sense of grounding and sense of connection with the animal, and in its path helps you.
What is the feeling you have when you know?
Wow, that's pretty cool and interesting. That's similar sort of words of what Willie Apiata VC has said to me when I was out at his place, and then he took me out in the paddocks with some of his horses and stuff where we're having a bit of a chat. Pretty cool.
It's working.
You stop thinking about the things that often just intrusively enter your mind. That might be situations that happened overseas, in Afghanistan particularly. I find that I don't think about those things.
Of course, it may not help men like Dusty that the War Crimes Inquiry is dredging up old demons.
Yeah, because there's only one more.
And that the conflict that affected him so deeply is now tainted by scandal. But he supports the inquiries and knows that truth is the best way to start getting better.
I know that it works. I know that this is a very grounding, a very natural way of healing. I hope that, we can save some lives. That's the bottom line. We want to save lives. And I believe that we can do that.
Dusty has found an early backer for his support program, Andrew Hastie MP. Hastie says the men...
Watch your back, Dusty. No doubt this twat has wanted to jump on the bandwagon because it's probably setting him up for his own agenda. Like, that's all this blinking cockstain is worth. The cock of the year, cock of the century, Wankstein Wasty. Like, this guy is just he'll stick the knife in you. This is my thoughts of this bloody ball bag as soon as he gets an opportunity. Look at what he's trying to do to the Liberal Party and Angus Taylor. He will look to do that to anybody. That's my take on this blinking ball bag.
And brave enough to speak out against illegal conduct should be supported. He's proud of an Anzac ethos that reflects toughness and decency, fairness, honesty and justice. Losing it, he says, is far worse than losing a war.
There's two forms of courage in war, moral courage and physical courage. I think moral courage is greater. So these guys have shown that. And the Australian people should be glad going forward that we have men of that calibre in the SAS.
Well, they'll be glad that we don't have cocks of the year like you in the SAS anymore. You are a blanking, a dirty blanking spoof stain on the regiment's history and on the ADF, in my opinion, for what it's worth. You are a twat, Wankstein Wasty, Andrew Hastie. And the sooner you are just blanking given the arse from politics, the better. But like a cancer and a traitor and a maggot, you'll still be malingering around and sticking in there wherever you can find a place. And you'll manage to convince and trick people that you're a good person, that you've got their best interests at heart, that you won't hand on secretly recorded tapes onto anybody else and or onto the media to progress your own political aspirations and career. You'll give your word and you'll make promises that all of a sudden, after when the defamation cases come, you can no longer recall making a promise to people. You are a fucking stain on Australia. And yeah, you're disgusting, mate. No, you're not even a fucking mate. You're ball bag. Oh, well, heck. That was the end of this blinking documentary. Anyway, I'm probably going to post this one up sooner rather than later. Had a lot to say, obviously. That was nearly an hour. And I think there's only about, I don't know, I want to say 15 minutes left or less of that. clearly I had a lot to say. Clearly I'm pissed off with those rodents in there, Wankstain, Wasty, not so much Dusty Miller, also Andrew Wankstain, and those two cowards hiding in the shadows, having the cheek to say, if you've done nothing wrong, what have you got to hide? As they sit, ironic, as they sit in the shadows. Yeah, I did end up swearing in there, didn't I? Probably a few times more than I have in other videos. But yeah, I feel strongly about the narrative in which the mainstream media, and especially about this Dick McKenzie and what he's done and what he continues to try to do in framing RS as a war criminal and as a murderer, and these twits, even though in this video they haven't specifically said. So this must have been an earlier video that was being done. And the reaction that I did to Dusty talking about where he didn't witness anything must have been after this documentary, I assume. Yeah. Mainstream media, public, people are going to make up their own opinions. People that follow my channel are going to have their own opinions formed already. Right or wrong, it is what it is. But what is true, though, right now, is that RS has been charged with 5 counts of war crime murder. He was arrested, and he is released on bail. And right now, he has not had a trial. He is innocent until proven guilty. In a court of law, criminal law or criminal court or whatever the process or term is, and he needs to be found guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Not for all 5. He only needs to be found guilty beyond reasonable doubt for just one of the 5 allegations of war crime murder. So it's not like he has to be found guilty of all 5. Just one will ruin him and his reputation. Maybe not so much his reputation, depending on who you speak to, but it will ruin him and his family if he is found guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Right now, that hasn't happened. So he is innocent until proven guilty. And whenever that court trial case happens, it happens. And at the end of that, the results, sentencing, whatever happens, I'll be here doing a video, whether he's found not guilty or guilty. I hope he's found not guilty on all counts. And I hope any attempts for appeal are thrown out as well. And that he can then just live his life. He can get on with his life, with his family. Those that have backed him from the start, can hopefully one day, those that have served with him, those that didn't necessarily serve with him in or anywhere, but, have been supporting him, hopefully they can then have an opportunity to not tell the world I told you so, but just to have a somewhat breathe a somewhat of a sigh of relief as well for him, not for myself or anything, but I know I would feel a heck of a lot better, just personally, if he is found not guilty. Like, I don't want RS to go to prison. I don't want these charges to be true. But what I want it doesn't factor into the equation when it comes to this criminal trial, which will be taking place, and the need for the prosecution to prove beyond reasonable doubt that he is guilty of one of those things, let alone all 5 of them. So time will tell. We'll see how we go. And appreciate you hanging around and listening to me waffle away. My apologies to those that may be more here because of the fact that I don't often swear in my reaction videos. But yeah, hey, every now and then I will likely do that. But my apologies to those that may have been shocked or gone, oh, bloody hell, what's this fella doing? He doesn't normally do that. So anyway, look after yourselves. Thank you once again for your time and support. And I'll see you, and or more so, you'll see me if you happen to come back on the next one.